I want to welcome you to this seminar of today, the 25th November 2021, which is about human rights and conservation.
Iprc Kitabi Human Rights and Conservation Module launch and faculty members tour. Iprc Kitabi Human Rights and Conservation Module official launch ceremony took place in Kigali on 25th November 2021, and the tour for faculty members was conducted from 29th November to 10th December 2021 in national parks, cultural villages, and islands of Kivu Lake in western province of Rwanda, precisely in Kalongi district. Human rights occupy a prominent place in strategies for the conservation and sustainable management of natural resources. The 12th General Assembly of International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, held in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC in 1975, adopted a resolution recognizing for the first time the need to take into account human rights of indigenous people and local people in the process of creating protected areas. That same resolution encourages government and nature conservation institutions to recognize the value of indigenous people and local communities' lifestyles and ensuring the integration of their land into protected areas, avoiding loss of land rights and displacement. Later, the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, imposes on governments obligations related to the respect, preservation, and maintenance of the knowledge, innovations, and practices of indigenous people and local communities, as well as the protection and promotion of their customary ways of living and the use of natural resources. Phase 1. Human Rights and Conservation Module official launch ceremony in Kigali. On 20th November 2021, the Integrated Polytechnic Regional College of Kitabi, Iprc Kitabi, alongside with its counterpartners, had a virtual launch ceremony of Human Rights and Conservation Module with the aim to integrate human rights principles in conservation. The module launch brought together government officials, representatives from different organizations with interventions in conservation, and Iprc Kitabi students, while others attended virtually. The module was launched under the theme Human Rights and Conservation, an Equation to Ecosystem Management and Human Rights Activities. In his opening remarks, Principal of Iprc Kitabi, Mr. Richard Nasasila, said that the ceremony was a celebration of a long-term good partnership and support from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services through generous grants since 2016.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to this ceremony when we launch a Human Rights and Conservation module as one among so many other modules that will be delivered at Iprc Kitabi in our Advanced Diploma in Wildlife and Conservation Technology. This ceremony is a celebration of a long-term and good partnership and support from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services through generous grants that have been provided to Iprc Kitabi towards conservation, towards the conservation program that we offer at Kitabi. Our partnership with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services started in 2016, and over the years, this partnership has yielded tangible results.
But they are very interested to hear about social safeguards, right? And each country has different policies and laws related to rights, safeguards, indigenous people, etc. And each country has a different ranger training program. So we do definitely have to do a legal analysis in each country and then figure out what works best and make sure that we're working hand in hand with the government to ensure that, you know, we're helping the government rather than going against different government policies.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services is the premier U.S. agency dedicated to the conservation, protection, and enhancement of fish, wildlife, and plants and their habitats. Mrs. Anna Seidman, she's an Assistant Director for International Affairs at U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She virtually addressed the audience.
Good afternoon, and warm greetings to Her Excellency, the Minister of Education in Rwanda, the U.S. Ambassador to Rwanda, Vice Chancellor of the Rwanda Polytechnic, the CEO of the Rwanda Development Board, distinguished representatives from universities, NGOs, the U.S. Forest Service, partners, and students. My name is Anna Seidman, and I'm Assistant Director of International Affairs for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's my great pleasure to speak to you today on behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and to congratulate Rwanda Polytechnic Iprc Kitabi on the launch of the new Human Rights and Conservation module. Thank you for joining with us in this valuable effort that reflects the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's commitment to partnering with regional institutions to build capacity for wildlife conservation, which includes addressing the needs, rights, and well-being of Indigenous and local communities. Iprc Kitabi is one of the few colleges devoted to training protected area staff in the Central Africa region. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's International Affairs Program has a long-term partnership with Iprc Kitabi to support scholarships for students from the region and the development of conservation-based curricula. With this program, launched in 2 phases, including an initial 3-year cooperative agreement in 2016, followed by a new 5-year cooperative agreement in 2019, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's International Affairs Program provides scholarships to key protected area staff in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda to earn diplomas in wildlife management and return to work in their country's national parks. The partnership also supports faculty development, in particular, to incorporate into the college's curriculum new teaching materials on emerging threats to wildlife and transboundary park management. This curriculum on human rights was developed as part of a partnership between the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the U.S. Forest Service's International Affairs programs, with engagement and input from regional experts, including wildlife college and university faculty. Iprc Kitabi's new Human Rights and Conservation module recognizes the rich biodiversity across Central Africa and the critical role that Indigenous and local communities play in its protection. This module demonstrates a commitment to ensuring that Indigenous and local rights and values are incorporated into all levels of training for conservationists. We recognize Iprc Kitabi as an essential and trusted partner that is building conservation capacity across Central Africa. Iprc Kitabi in Rwanda, Garua Wildlife College in Cameroon, National School for Water and Forests, Gabon, and other members of the RIFIAC network of forestry and environmental training institutions of Central Africa are making an institutional commitment to develop capacity regarding protected area management and wildlife conservation, and to emphasize the importance of integrating Indigenous and community rights into conservation efforts. We thank the representatives from these colleges and universities who are attending today. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service looks forward to continuing to work with all of our partners to promote the importance of respecting and protecting human rights in our shared wildlife conservation mission. We appreciate and recognize your leadership in training current and future protected area personnel on the most critical and relevant issues facing protected areas. Congratulations and wishes for success to Iprc Kitabi, RIFIAC institutions, and their students. Thank you.
Human Rights and Conservation module at Iprc Kitabi will provide students with knowledge and skills necessary for integrating human rights in biodiversity conservation and natural resources management. In his closing remarks, Principal Richard said,
"Let me recognize the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service," said Anna, the U.S. Forest International, especially Olivier Sen, representatives from USAID, CALP, and RIFIAC, representatives from RDB, Rwanda Development Board, representatives from government and non-governmental international and national organizations, including the Special Guarantee Fund, WCS, ALCOS, IECN, University of Rwanda, Center of Excellence for Biodiversity and Natural Resource Management, all our viewers, where you have joined us from, either in Rwanda or outside Rwanda, especially USA, DRC, Cameroon, Gabon, and all our students who are not here with us. I want to welcome you to this seminar of today, the 25th November 2021, which is about human rights and conservation. It is my pleasure
Phase 2, Human Rights and Conservation Module Faculty Members Tour. The second phase of Human Rights and Conservation Module at Iprc Kitabi was for coaching and field tour by faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and École de Fondo Garoua in Cameroon. The faculty members tour heading the communities around Nyungwe National Park, Volcanoes National Park, Akadia National Park, and at Environmental Museum and islands in Kivu Lake at Kalongi side. This field trip was mainly devoted to the practical aspects of the module, including interviews with local communities and stakeholders in biodiversity conservation, field observations, and case studies to better address issues related to participatory approaches and respect for the rights of indigenous people and local communities, in particular free, clear, and informed consent, FPIC.
Nyungwe Culture Village is around 5 hotels here in Gisakura. So when the tourists come, they don't come only for Nyungwe forest. They come for other purpose. And when they are in the hotels, after visiting the primates, after walking through the forest, they come down here. They book or they make a call and come down here. So we show them different activities.
Yeah.
We also...
The faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and EFG Cameroon studied the tour at Nyungwe Cultural Village, which belongs to the local community around Nyungwe National Park. Among the members of Nyungwe Cultural Village, there are the ex-poachers and ex-miners inside the Nyungwe National Park. They offer services related to cultural tourism and agro-tourism. Their clients are mainly tourists of Nyungwe National Park, researchers and students. The Nyungwe Cultural Village members get a huge amount of money from the products that they sell.
de Gisakura fabrique le thé. Donc l'usine à thé de Gisakura achète le thé avec le coopérateur. Le coopérateur aussi engage des cueilleurs et des cueilleuses. Et les cueilleurs et les cueilleuses aussi sont groupés dans une seule coopérative.
The team also visited Nyabinjanga mining site, which is located nearby Nyungwe National Park. The site is under the management of a cooperative that employed local community that were mainly ex-miners, hunters, and bamboo cutters inside Nyungwe National Park. Both Nyungwe Cultural Village and Nyabinjanga mining site contribute so much in the conservation of Nyungwe National Park because their members and employees are mainly local communities that used to destroy the park.
Yes, the part of corrections is this one. Okay. In a one-day visit, the faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and École de Fondagawa in Cameroon visit the Environment Museum, which is based in Kalongi near Lake Kivu. The museum covers 2 floors with a traditional herbal medicine garden on its rooftop. The first of its kind on the continent, the museum looks at renewable and non-renewable sources of energy. The team also visited islands in Kivu Lake. The Kivu Lake occupies an area of 2,370 square kilometers, of which about 1,000 square kilometers, it means 42%, belong to Rwanda. With analogy to island biogeography, Kivu Islands can be considered as continental islands. It means that before the lake was created, its islands were physically and biologically similar to the surrounding mainlands of western Rwanda. This means that 15,000 years ago, all actual islands were connected to the mainland. For this reason, biodiversity from surrounding mainland should have many similarities with cross islands. Islands in Kivu Lake are known to have been occupied by human families where various human activities were taking place extensively. There were a lot of farming, animal grazing, handcraft using raw materials collected from the forest, fishing, charcoal burning, collecting firewood, and medicinal plants collection, which invariably indicates strong relationship between ecosystems of the area and human activities. The above-mentioned threats contributed to the degradation of Kivu Lake. This led the government of Rwanda to the decision of relocating those families to the mainland. The islands remained as tourism destinations under the management of surrounding cooperatives. The faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and École de Fondagawa in Cameroon visit also the Diana Fossé Gorilla Fund International in Musanze district. This fund is a charity for the protection of endangered mountain gorillas.
The Digit Fund was created by Dr. Diana Fossey in 1978 for the sole purpose of financing her anti-poaching patrols and preventing further poaching of the mountain gorillas. The Ellen DeGeneres campus of the Diana Fossey Gorilla Fund is the campus which is under construction with the purpose to amplify the Diana Fossey Gorilla Fund international mission of conservation, protect and study gorillas, train the next generation of African conservationists, and build the conservation capacity of local communities. Throughout the campus, there will be interpretive paths for visitors to explore and expand their education on gorilla habitats and reforestation efforts. The faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and École de Fondo Gawa in Cameroon also visited Akadia National Park, which lies in east of Rwanda, hugging the border with Tanzania. Akadia National Park is characterized by woodland, swamps, low mountains, and savanna. Following lion and rhino introductions in this park, Akadia officially became a Big Five park in May 2017. It now boasts thriving populations of lion, leopard, elephant, rhino, and buffalo, as well as zebra, giraffe, baboons, crocodiles, hippos, and hundreds of pet species. The Akadia National Park is surrounded by an electrical fence, which contributed a lot to the reduction of human-wildlife conflicts. The managers of Akadia National Park work hand in hand with various local community cooperatives to gently conserve the park.
For this initiative, for making this happen and contributing so much to the development of the local communities around National Park. And hopefully you engage so much the local communities in activities, isn't it? Yes. And you respect so much their rights. Yes. And you contribute so much in the conservation of the area which you are working with. Now,
on the last day of the tour, the faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and École de Fondo Gawa in Cameroon paid a visit at Ihema Lake View Cultural Village, which is managed by Akofrejco, Akagera Community Freelance Guides Cooperative. This cultural village is set to accommodate guests who want to visit Akadia National Park and experience community cultural activities. It has a big apiary through which they produce the honey, and its daily activities contribute a lot to socio-economic development of local communities around Akadia National Park.
Ces forgerons, parmi eux, il y avait des chasseurs. Pour ceux qui sont en sortir, pour le moment, ils se développent parce que c'est des hasards de
In general, the official launch of Human Rights and Conservation module and the field tour for faculty members from Iprc Kitabi, NF Gabon, and the École de Fondo Gawa, Cameroon were conducted successfully. All participants took active part in all aspects of the launch and the field tour. Through the wrap-up round table discussion conducted by all faculty members' representatives, all participants agreed that they are going to put into practice what they learned during the launch and on the field tour of Human Rights and Conservation module.
Je suis Vincent Zolan du Cameroun, je suis de l'école de Fondo Gawa. Je suis le chef du bureau de la société des stages à l'école de Fondo Gawa. Donc je suis aussi au Rwanda pour accompagner Isidore pour lancer ce module, faire une excursion et rencontrer les communautés riveraines des aires protégées ici au Rwanda. Question de pouvoir adapter le module au contexte rwandais particulier pour qu'on puisse avoir un module qui traite des questions spécifiques au Rwanda. Donc pour la première phase que nous avons déjà faite ici au Rwanda, à savoir la cérémonie de lancement qui a eu lieu à Kitabi, je veux dire à Kigali, une très belle cérémonie au cours de laquelle il y a beaucoup d'interventions qui ont plus ou moins orienté ce qui devait être fait dans le cadre de la suite de ce programme. Et pour les premières journées de l'inscription que nous menons avec le staff de Kitabi, je pense que jusqu'ici, les choses sont sur la bonne voie.